Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Catholic Home and Travel. Today, we are talking about travel. If you saw my previous travel videos, you know that we've covered Spain and France. And today? You probably guessed it, Italy. Oh, Italy, a bucket list country for so many people, especially Catholics. There are so many incredible Catholic pilgrimage sites in this country, including many incorrupt saints and sites of Eucharistic miracles. In just Rome alone, you will find numerous beautiful churches, relics, and tombs of many famous saints. Narrowing it down to what I consider to be the highlights in all of Italy, well, they may just be my favorites. So, if you do end up taking a Catholic pilgrimage through this country, I encourage you to check out thecatholictravelguide.com to make note of other amazing pilgrimage sites that you would like to see. Speaking of Rome, let's begin our pilgrimage in this capital city, which is also known as the Eternal City. Since I know that Vatican City, which is a separate state within Rome, will be on any Catholic's travel list already, let's instead talk about the 4 major basilicas which are a must-see if you find yourself in Rome. One of these major basilicas includes St. Peter's Basilica, of course, which is the largest church in the world and the only of the 4 major basilicas within Vatican City. Of course, there are many incredible things to see in St. Peter's. Some of my favorites include Michelangelo's Pieta, the stunning gold leaf ceiling, and the Vatican grottos, which contain the remains of over 90 popes, including what is believed to be the tomb of St. Peter himself. Next is the Basilica of St. Paul outside the walls, built in the 4th century and the second largest basilica in Rome after St. Peter's. This basilica was built directly over St. Paul's burial place after his martyrdom. Here you will find portraits of all the popes from St. Peter to Pope Francis, as well as the chains that were used to hold St. Paul prisoner before he was martyred. Now let's move on to the Papal Basilica of St. Mary Major, which is the largest of the 26 churches in Rome dedicated to our Blessed Mother, as well as the oldest Marian shrine in the West, dating back to the 5th century. This gorgeous basilica was built to commemorate the Council of Ephesus proclaiming Mary as the Mother of God. Some of the not-to-miss sites include the stunning mosaics, the Sistine Chapel, also referred to as the Chapel of the Nativity, and my favorite, a very special relic, 5 pieces of wood from the sacred cradle of Jesus. Incredible. As a side note, St. Mary Major is owned by the Vatican and as such is guarded by the Vatican City Police. Last, but certainly not least, is the Basilica of St. John Lateran. Also known as St. John Lateran Archbasilica and built in the 4th century, this is actually the oldest of the 4 major basilicas in Rome. Because it is the cathedral of the Diocese of Rome, it is also the most high-ranking basilica in the West. Some of this basilica's most noteworthy treasures include magnificent statues of the 12 apostles situated between columns in the main nave, a gorgeous 14th century ciborium over the basilica's papal altar, which contains within it a relic of the original wooden altar used by St. Peter and other early popes, and a reliquary containing pieces of the table that Jesus used during the Last Supper. Right across the street from this basilica, you will find the Scala Sancta, or Holy Stairs, which were brought by St. Helen from Jerusalem and are said to be the very stairs that Jesus climbed to appear before Pontius Pilate at the beginning of his Passion. As I mentioned, there are many wonderful sites to visit in Rome alone, so be sure to do your research ahead of time to identify other places that you may want to visit. Moving north, we come to Sienna, one of my very favorite cities in all of Italy. Sienna, of course, is the birthplace of Catherine of Sienna, a great mystic, reformer, and doctor of the Church who lived during the 1300s. If you find yourself in this charming Gothic town, which is nearly unchanged since medieval times, you won't be able to miss the gorgeous Sienna Cathedral perched at the city's highest point. This church is said to be one of the finest examples of Romanesque Gothic-style architecture and one of the most breathtaking churches in all of Italy. This cathedral is dedicated to the Assumption of Mary and was constructed during the 1200s. While the exterior is stunning, it's the interior that makes one's jaw drop. The unusually long nave with striped black and white columns is eye-catching to say the least, not to mention the ornate marble inlaid floor and beautiful stained glasswork. Not surprisingly, this cathedral was worked on by many famous artists and sculptors, including Donatello, Michelangelo, and Bernini. Also in Sienna, you will find the Basilica San Domenico, which is St. Catherine's home church. Here you will find many of her relics, including her well-preserved head inside of a reliquary. You may be wondering, why would her hometown only have her head? Well, rumor has it that after she was buried in Rome, some of the people from Sienna tried to smuggle her body back to her hometown, but they decided that it might be safer to take just her head inside of a bag. When they were stopped by Roman guards leaving the city, they said that they prayed to Catherine for help, and their prayers were answered. When they opened the bag for the guards, it was full of rose petals. Finally, with just a short walk from the Basilica San Domenico, you can also visit the sanctuary of St. Catherine. This is the house where the saint lived and prayed, and today is a must-see museum. Now let's continue our pilgrimage to the northwestern part of the country to arrive at Turin. I'm sure there is only one image that comes to mind when you hear the name Turin. That's right, the famous Shroud of Turin, which is believed to be the burial cloth of Jesus. You will find the Holy Shroud inside St. John the Baptist Cathedral in the Shroud Chapel. It has been housed here since 1578. However, because of its fragile state, you won't see the actual shroud, except in a Jubilee year when the actual shroud could be displayed for veneration. Generally, though, the actual shroud is stored and guarded carefully with bulletproof glass and security cameras. However, for more information about this incredible shroud, including its history, you can visit the Most Holy Shroud Museum inside the crypt of the Most Holy Shroud Church, located about 10 minutes by foot from the cathedral. Once you've taken in everything related to the shroud, it's good to know that Turin is the fourth largest city in the country and is a wonderful city to visit with many other Catholic points of interest. If you love St. Michael as much as I do, then don't miss Sacra di San Michele, an ancient Benedictine abbey about an hour drive from Turin that is devoted to this beloved archangel. This Romanesque Gothic abbey, which was built in the 900s, sits about 3,200 feet above the Susa Valley. At one point, upwards of 1,000 monks lived here. Not only is the architecture something to behold, but you will also find beautiful pieces of artwork throughout. Interestingly, royal members of the House of Savoy were buried here in the 12th century. Finally, the views, including those of Turin, are fantastic from here. Now let's make our way east to the city of Padua to visit the basilica of one of the most well-known saints, St. Anthony of Padua, commonly known as the Saint of Lost and Stolen Articles. Although St. Anthony was born in Lisbon, Portugal, long story short, he was shipwrecked in Italy on his way home to Portugal and decided to make his home there with the Franciscans. It was here that he became the gifted homilist that he is known as today. After St. Anthony's death in 1231, his body was transferred to a new basilica in 1263. It was during this transfer that they found that his tongue, jawbone, and vocal cords had not disintegrated like the rest of his body. These are now on display in reliquaries inside the Basilica of St. Anthony, which was constructed primarily in the 13th century with Romanesque, Byzantine, and Gothic architectural features. In addition to these relics, you can also see 29 bronze sculptures by Donatello in the main altar, as well as a number of gorgeous side chapels, frescoes, paintings, and sculptures throughout. One of the largest churches in the world, the Basilica of St. Anthony is recognized by the Vatican as one of the 8 international shrines and receives millions of pilgrims each year. After visiting the basilica, be sure to spend some time in Padua, which is a picturesque city with fantastic architecture and many museums and gardens to visit. Now, if you do make it to Padua, you can easily make it a home base and visit our next pilgrimage spot in Venice, which is only roughly 30 minutes away by train. Padua is also a much more affordable place to stay than Venice. So, what are we seeing in Venice? Why, the famous St. Mark's Basilica, of course. St. Mark's, built in the 9th century, primarily in the Byzantine style, is the most iconic building in Venice, and arguably the most famous attraction in Venice. The facade of this basilica is breathtaking, with intricate carvings and beautiful sculptures. If you visit, be sure to learn about the 4 famous bronze horses over the entrance. In addition to being the home of St. Mark's relics, this church is famously known for its magnificent mosaics depicting biblical stories and saints, as well as for its massive ornate high altarpiece known as the Pala de Oro. This gold Byzantine altarpiece has an amazing 1,300 pearls, 300 sapphires, 300 emeralds, 400 garnets, and 100 rubies, amethysts, and topazes. Wow! In addition to St. Mark's, there are, of course, many other wonderful Catholic sites to visit in Venice as well. Now let's head south in our pilgrimage to the well-known city of Assisi, where we are going to see many important Catholic sites. First, as we all know, Assisi is the hometown of St. Francis of Assisi. Here we are going to visit another impressive basilica dedicated to this famous saint who was the first known person to receive the stigmata. This basilica, which has a Romanesque Revival exterior and a Gothic interior, began construction in the 1200s and has 2 levels. On the lower level is where you will find his tomb in a crypt below the altar. This basilica is also well known for its masterpiece frescoes both in the upper basilica as well as the lower basilica. Of course, if you are familiar with the humble St. Francis, then I'm sure you are familiar with St. Clare, one of St. Francis's most devoted followers. Not only did she leave behind her wealthy family to follow St. Francis, but she also founded the Order of Poor Ladies, referred to today as the Poor Clares. Because of St. Clare's impact on the church, they also built a basilica in her name near the Basilica of St. Francis. Not only is this another beautiful basilica, but it is here that you will find her bones, which are now covered in wax. Although, fun fact, her body was completely incorrupt when they found her tomb 600 years after her death. It's good to know that this Gothic basilica, which also began construction in the 1200s, contains the original crucifix which spoke to St. Francis at San Damiano. In addition to these 2 gorgeous basilicas, you will also find the Basilica of St. Mary of the Angels in Assisi, which houses the tiny chapel that St. Francis rebuilt per God's request. It is here that he lived and began the Franciscan order. There is also a statue of St. Francis here to mark the spot where he spoke to the doves. Incredibly, to this day, white turtle doves still build their nests in this statue. Without going into the story as to why, it's great to know that you can receive a plenary indulgence if you visit this chapel on August 2nd each year, which is referred to as the Pardon of Assisi. Finally, you can visit the embalmed body of Blessed Carlos Acutis while in Assisi. You will find his tomb in the Church of Santa Maria Maggiore, also known as St. Mary Major. He apparently loved to visit Assisi and requested that he be buried there. Just east of Assisi, you will find the town of Loretto, a very popular and important pilgrimage site in all of Italy. It is here that you will find the sanctuary of the Holy House of Loretto, also known as the Basilica della Santa Casa, which contains the Holy House of Nazareth. Big T tradition says that this is the very house where the Virgin Mary was born, lived, and where the Annunciation with the Archangel Gabriel took place. It is also said to be the house that the Holy Family returned to after their flight to Egypt and where Jesus lived for 30 years. Finally, it is believed that the early Christians used this house to celebrate Mass. Numerous miracles have been reported here, over 150 saints have visited here, and because of its importance, this shrine is under the direct authority and protection of the Pope. You can see that the Holy House is enclosed within ornate marble, built during the Renaissance period. How did the house get from Nazareth to Loretto, you ask? That is an excellent question, and there are 2 main theories. One natural and one supernatural. Feel free to read about both and then you decide. Nevertheless, solid research has shown that the stones used in this house resemble those found in Nazareth. The materials and techniques used to build this house are the same as those used in the Holy Land, and the house has no foundation. which you would naturally expect to find if this were the original location. Very mysterious indeed. Okay, now let's tear ourselves away from Loretto and journey south to San Giovanni Rotondo, where we will find the shrine of Saint Padre Pio, one of today's most popular saints. It is here in San Giovanni Rotondo that he lived a good portion of his life. Quite the modern structure, this massive shrine is nearly 65,000 square feet, will seat up to 6,000 people, and has standing room for an additional 10,000 people. It is here at the shrine, specifically in what is referred to as the New Church, that you will find his tomb in the richly adorned crypt and can see the saint's body, which was in good condition when exhumed, however, not incorrupt. Many know that Padre Pio had incredible gifts, including bilocation, prophecy, miraculous healings, and the ability to read souls. Speaking of reading souls, one of the best things you can visit at the shrine complex is the old church where Padre Pio celebrated Mass. It is called the Old Church of Our Lady of Grace. Inside this church, you can see the altar where he celebrated Mass, as well as his original confessional where he spent long hours hearing confessions. While at the shrine, you can also see the actual crucifix that Padre Pio was praying in front of when he received the stigmata on his hands, feet, and side. Because Padre Pio is a modern saint, there are also a number of photographs of him and his family, as well as memorabilia that you can see while visiting here. Now a mere half-hour away from this shrine, you will find another must-see St. Michael pilgrimage site in the town of Monte Sant Angelo. Monte Sant Angelo is a village located in the southern part of the Gargano region, about 800 meters above sea level. It is here that you will find the sanctuary of St. Michael the Archangel, also referred to as the Celestial Basilica, the Grotto of St. Michael, or St. Michael's Cave. Whatever name you use, this is one incredible pilgrimage site. St. Michael is said to have appeared here 4 different times, 3 that took place in the 400s, and the 4th which occurred in 1656. Long story short, St. Michael told the local bishop to build a church here inside the limestone cave, which he ultimately did in 493. But St. Michael told him that he didn't need to consecrate it because he already had. As a result, it is the only building of worship in the church that was not consecrated by man, hence the name the Celestial Basilica. In the 13th century, the exterior Romanesque-style sanctuary was built. This site became one of the 4 major pilgrimage sites in all of Europe for many centuries. Not surprisingly, countless popes and saints have visited this site, including Padre Pio, who is said to have directed his penitents here to seek St. Michael's intercession in their battle against sin and evil spirits. Speaking of evil spirits, stones from this cave are still distributed today within the church as general sacramentals and relics, and many exorcists around the world have said that these stones have had similar effects in their exorcist rites as relics of other saints. On a final note, it's good to know that you can also attend Mass here during your visit. Last, but certainly not least, we are going to head to Bari, a beautiful port city on the Adriatic Sea. It is here in this coastal town that you will find a basilica to one of our most beloved saints. I'm referring to the Basilica di San Nicolas, which holds St. Nicholas's tomb. Although he was born in Myra, which is in modern-day Turkey, centuries after his death, they transferred his body to Bari in 1087 after the Muslim conquest of Turkey. It was here in 1087 that they began building a magnificent Romanesque basilica in his honor. While it's always a blessing to be able to visit the tomb of any Catholic saint, there is something very special about this particular tomb. Every year on May 9th, a delegate of the Pope, the Archbishop of Bari, and a number of clergy come together to extract a transparent liquid from St. Nicholas's tomb. They refer to this liquid as manna, specifically Santa Manna. This liquid, which is no more than 50 milliliters, is then mixed with holy water and distributed to the faithful. They have been doing this for centuries. Not only is the liquid a relic, since it has been in contact with the saint's remains, but many miracles have been attributed to it over the centuries. Now you might be thinking, isn't there a perfectly reasonable explanation for this liquid? Actually, there isn't. They have proven that the casket containing the saint's bones is impermeable, so there's no natural cause for this liquid. Other things to see in this breathtaking basilica include the magnificent architecture, the high altar dating back to 1150 AD, and an absolutely gorgeous wood ceiling covered in frescoes. An interesting side note, because St. Nicholas is so important to both the Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches, they host both Catholic and Eastern Orthodox services here, as well as co-liturgies between the two churches. Now, to finish off this pilgrimage route, you are only about a 4-hour drive away from Rome, where you can catch your flight home. But on your way back, there is one more site I'd like to briefly mention. You would need to go south for a little more than an hour, but if you did, you could visit one of the oldest cities in the world, the ancient city of Matera. It was here in Matera that the Passion of the Christ was filmed, and there is even a Passion of the Christ guided tour that you can take to see all of the places that were in the background of the movie. So cool! I hope you enjoyed this Catholic tour of Italy. I know I did! As always, I truly hope this video inspires you to embark on your own Catholic pilgrimages. May the Lord bless you and keep you.